Number 8. Lisa Baines. While en route to see her wife at a dinner party on June the 4th of 2021, actor Lisa Baines was wiped out by an electric scooter in an Upper West Side neighborhood of New York. Known for her work in Gone Girl and Cocktail, Baines was only visiting the city from her home in Los Angeles. As per eyewitness reports, she was crossing the street when a red and black scooter ran a red light straight into her. The driver of the scooter, who did not have the right of way, immediately fled the scene. The collision left Baines with a severe brain injury, and she was rushed to the hospital, where she died 10 days later. She was one of 60 pedestrian fatalities in New York City over the previous year, which marked an 87% increase to the year before. Baines' influence in the world of theater, film, and Broadway was commemorated on social media through an outpouring of love and memories from past colleagues and friends. Number 7. Emily Hartridge. Emily Hartridge was a popular British YouTube star and TV presenter who started her career in 2012, making a series of vlogs titled 10 Reasons Why. Her content, shared to more than 354,000 subscribers, contained topics ranging from relationships to mental health and her personal life. She broke into the TV world by securing a spot as host to Channel 4's Oh Sht, I'm 30 in 2016. She even received the Mind Media Award a few years later for her portrayals of mental health in the media. Unfortunately, this impressive forward momentum came to a tragic halt in July of 2019 following an electric scooter crash. Hartridge was going through the Queen's Circus roundabout in London when she lost control of her electric scooter and crashed into a transportation truck. She was thrown under the truck and died at the scene, marking her as the first reported fatality caused by an electric scooter crash in England. The crash was ruled as accidental, and the coroner determined the loss of control was due to her unsuitably driving the electric scooter at too high a speed with an underinflated tire. At the time, electric scooters were illegal to drive on public roads, and no one was arrested. Hartridge's boyfriend had bought her the scooter for her 35th birthday, which she'd recently celebrated in May. In what would be her final post, she uploaded a video of herself receiving the gift to YouTube and named it 10 Reasons to Get a Younger Boyfriend. The man has since expressed regret over the purchase. Number 6. James Cody Skene. In early June of 2021, residents of Venice, Los Angeles, called for a crackdown on electric scooter regulations after the death of 91-year-old Yin Wu. He fatally hit his head after a couple, both on a single scooter, crashed into him as he was walking on the sidewalk at around 9:20 p.m. The driver of the scooter was identified as 29-year-old James Cody Skene and was arrested at the scene on suspicion of drunk driving. The Venice neighborhood had become a popular spot for driving and renting e-scooters, but, according to multiple reports, their presence was a spot of controversy for residents who viewed them as dangerous and underregulated. Skene was held on $100,000 bail for illegally driving on the sidewalk and for carrying a passenger on the single-person scooter, while his passenger will bear no legal responsibility. Number 5. KAYJON LUBIN. 15-year-old KAYJON LUBIN was with his friend Azar Mia at Pier Parade Square in East London on December the 11th of 2020, when they were approached by two 17-year-old males who'd accused them of stealing their electric scooter. The men carried knives, and upon being confronted, Lubin and Mia drew their own weapons and squared up to the pier for several minutes without engaging. According to the reports, the confrontation seemed to have been resolved as the two friends sheathed their knives and walked away from the group. But as their backs were turned, one of the other teenagers took advantage and attacked Lubin, who tried to escape but was stabbed in the chest and head. He managed to make it to some populated stores where he collapsed as bystanders rushed to help him. He succumbed to his wounds, and both 17-year-olds, who cannot be named for legal reasons, were arrested for violent disorder and murder, charges which both denied. Mia was also arrested for violent disorder and possession of a blade. Mia had attempted to dump his and Lubin's knives while his friend received urgent medical attention, but police recovered them in a nearby garbage bin. The location of the missing electric scooter is still unknown. Number 4. Jamie Smith. Jamie Smith was walking with his father in Leicester, England, in August of 2020 when he was struck and knocked to the pavement by a passing e-scooter. Traveling at a speed of 24 miles per hour, the collision with the scooter caused what were thought to be life-threatening injuries, and Smith was airlifted to a hospital in Nottingham. He survived with multiple cuts, bruises, and a fractured skull caused by the accident, but was left with severe psychological trauma that lingered long after. His family admitted that he became petrified of going outside and suffered from constant nightmares. On top of taking up to 10 minutes to muster the courage to leave the house, Smith avoided looking in the mirror for 6 weeks because he'd become frightened of his unrecognizable face. Despite fleeing the scene after the crash, the scooter driver was found and arrested. The 17-year-old pleaded guilty to 6 offenses, including causing serious injury from dangerous driving, failure to stop after an accident, and use of a motor vehicle without insurance. Number 3. JACOBY STONEKING. On September the 3rd of 2018, JACOBY STONEKING from Dallas, Texas, was using a rented Lime e-scooter when he called his roommate to say he had hurt his foot falling off and to see if he could order him a lift home. STONEKING was lucid on the phone and insisted he wasn't hurt anywhere else, but when the driver arrived to pick him up, he was found lying on the ground completely unresponsive. He was still alive when officers arrived just after 4 a.m., but succumbed to his injuries the following morning. He hadn't been wearing a helmet at the time of the crash, and the cause of death was determined to have been traumatic brain injury. STONEKING's father was incredulous that the damage, the accident scene, and the phone call could be explained by a crash and suspected his son had been the victim of a hit and run. Despite the broken scooter being found 160 yards from STONEKING's body, police were unable to find any evidence of another party's involvement and deemed it a freak accident. STONEKING's family was not satisfied with that conclusion and went on to sue the e-scooter company Lime on the basis of a defective scooter. Lime denied the allegations, but because of their fine print, a jury would never see the case. Instead of court, the lawsuit must be brought to an arbiter, a clause which STONEKING had accepted under Lime's 18,000-word user agreement. Today's topic was requested by KKaz, Mackie Karras, and Austin Nelson. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Madam Ong B. Eng. On the night of September the 21st of 2019, 22-year-old Hong Ki-boon was driving his e-scooter along a cycling path in Singapore on the way to meet a friend. He owned a massive Dualtron Ultra e-scooter, bought a year before, which weighed nearly 100 pounds and boasted a top speed just shy of 50 miles per hour. At around 10:30 p.m. without slowing, Hong sped through a junction near Bedok Reservoir Park and collided with 64-year-old Madam Ong B. Eng, who was cycling perpendicular to him. The collision caused Madam Ong to be flung from her bike onto the footpath, while Hong landed on a nearby patch of grass. Hong sustained non-life-threatening injuries, but Madam Ong was found bleeding from her head. Unconscious and unresponsive, she was rushed to the hospital, where the extent of her injuries was uncovered. The prognosis was grim, as along with severe brain trauma, she sustained several facial injuries, broken ribs, a broken collarbone, and a fracture to the base of her skull. Doctors noted that they could rush her into potentially life-saving surgery, but that it would be high risk and she'd likely remain in a vegetative state. Madam Ong's family ultimately decided against going through with it, and she passed away 4 days later in the intensive care unit. On May the 5th of 2019, Hong pled guilty to causing death through a rash act and admitted to riding a non-compliant personal mobility device on a shared path. These charges could carry fines and prison sentences up to 5 years and 3 months respectively, but the final verdict was 12 weeks behind bars. Hong's defense was that he'd been mentally preoccupied over the recent suicide of his father and that Madam Ong had approached from his blind spot with no headlights. The judge threw out Hong's plea for probation and stated that although he was sympathetic to his personal struggles, it wasn't relevant to his reckless driving. In addition, his scooter had been unregistered and grossly non-compliant to city weight and speed regulations, of which Hong would have been fully aware. The case was cited 6 months later when the Singaporean government implemented a ban on e-scooters on footpaths. Violations could carry up to a 3-month prison sentence and a $1,500 fine. Number 1. Barrie House. What is believed to be the second fatality in the UK involving an e-scooter occurred just under a year after the death of YouTube star Emily Hartridge. On June the 24th of 2020, charity campaigner Barrie Howes was driving his electric scooter home from work when he lost control going down a steep hill on a residential road in Kent. Despite wearing a helmet, he suffered traumatic brain injuries and was airlifted to a hospital after being found by a passerby. He was admitted to critical care, where he spent 9 days fighting for his life before ultimately passing away. According to his wife, Howes used to take the bus to and from work every day, but had purchased an electric scooter at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the government advised citizens to avoid public transportation. Insights into the crash discovered that Howes had eye problems that barred him from driving, and that he was taking medication that would have increased bleeding after an accident. Kent Police Sergeant Michael Champion called it a freak accident and theorized that although his scooter had a max speed of 30 miles per hour, the steep incline would have pushed it well past that, causing him to lose control. Charitable even in death, 3 of Howes' organs were donated towards life-saving operations. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have to race downhill on an electric scooter or have to try and outride an avalanche on a snowboard or skis? Let us know in the comments section below.